One of the most consistent problems in all of jiu-jitsu is having your training partner use their limbs to keep you away from them. One of your primary goals in jiu-jitsu is get all those frames out of the way so you can lay chest to chest, pin your partner, isolate their limbs, and then either strangle them or finish them with submission. You can't do that while you're stuck on their frames, either at the upper body or the lower body. So if you want to figure out how to solve that problem, we're about to cover all the things that you need to know and end up finishing that pesky blue belt that keeps using their stupid flexibility to stop you from passing, pinning, and submitting them.
Consistently, it is the most common question we get asked, either at the lower body or the upper body. Most commonly, it's how the fuck do I deal with a low knee shield? Literally, I think I've heard this question asked 500 times, and it's always the same answer. And what I've sort of been doing in thinking about, you can settle down, buddy. What I've been doing about, thinking about rather, is the fact that his femur right here is essentially the same as what his humerus is at the upper body. And so if you think about these two body parts essentially being the same thing in terms of frames, they want to keep me away from his torso, basically. His leg wants to keep me away from his hips. His arm wants to keep me away from his shoulders. And the way that we deal with the one down the bottom is the same way that we deal with the one at the top. Or at least this is what I'm working with as a theory. So we'll go with the low knee shield first. Ideally, what you want to do is you want to never be on the side or the front of his knee. Whilst my hip is on the front of his knee, I'm going to find it very difficult to be able to break this lock. So if Spewy sets it incorrectly, yeah, he locks his feet. I'm technically on the side of his, or on the front of his knee right now, where his patella is or his kneecap. I want all my body weight to be on the outside edge of his knee, because when I do that, his feet come undone and his knees get smashed together. Now, what I don't want to do ever across all frames is go into them. I never, ever, ever want to go into frames. If I go into frames, he can hold me here forever. I'm not putting any weight into him. I'm not making his little butt sore. Pause. But I'm basically not putting any tension into him where he feels like he's going to have to do anything anytime soon. And this is why you see a ton of white belt matches and a ton of blue belt matches where they're just sitting here going, oh my fucking God, I don't know what to do. I'm sure you guys have been there before, you especially. You're a big Z-guard aficionado. But anyway, so as soon as we go put our weight on the outside edge of this knee, all of that starts to stop. So really what I'm just focused on is not going into frames. I'm going inside them, around them, over the top of them, or under them. And that'll start to make sense when we bring in the upper body section. The lower body section essentially is over the top of. So what I'm trying to do is trying to get my hip as far across the top to the outside of his knee, and then I'm going to start to sprawl my leg back and down so I can undo his legs, and then I'm just going to continue over the top of the outside of this frame. Now, when Spewy tries to contain me within his Z-guard, it's extremely difficult. When he tries to move this knee, it's extremely difficult, except in one direction, which happens to be where I want him to put it, down towards my tailbone. Like he wants to eject this, and then I can immediately start to come up into half guard situations, which is what I want, and I'm outside both of his frames or inside both of his frames, however you want to look at it. So, to start, we're going to think about this being the same as this, and we're going to essentially deal with them the same way, except we've got more tools to deal with the upper body frame than we do with the lower body frame. I wouldn't ever coach you guys to come inside this. Yeah, there's weave passes. It's not very good. It tends to be something you do when you're tired. In matches that you should have won. I probably wouldn't be going too far into the inside of this. It's going to be extremely difficult for your arm to fight against his leg. It's relatively ineffective. But the best method at the lower body is going to be taking your hip and your chest and your shoulders all the way across his body so that I can get over the top of the outside of his knee. And then all I really have to do is drop my weight down, unlock his feet, and then I can compress his knees down in towards the floor. And you'll notice I'm not going into his legs, I'm going around over the top of them, and then I can start to work my way through pummels, I can start to climb over the top, but as long as I stay on the outside, or one of your hairs in my mouth already.
Oh, nice.
Or theoretically, if he takes his knee shield out, I can stay inside his frames. I'm in a very good spot. So I think thinking about it like this is going to make a lot of sense to you guys. Give this a go with the knee shield, and then we'll look at the upper body as well. Then we'll change positions to see how it works in different spots. What does the inside look like without actually using our arms? So if we're in a split squat position, we always want to play the dilemma between going to the outside and then opening up at the same time. I'm not going to be using my hands to do this, I'm going to be using my hips. So if Spewy feels like I'm crashing his knees together and he really doesn't like that, he may elect to undo his legs and put his knee in my top shoulder. Exactly. When he starts to put his knee in my top shoulder, I've got access to the inside of his knee. Again, remember, we're not going to the patella, we're not going directly on the front of the knee, because I can put a ton of weight into him here, but he doesn't really feel motivated to do anything because it's resting on his skeleton. As soon as I go slightly inside or slightly outside, it's now resting on his muscle that does the opening or the closing of his legs. And he's going to be in quite a fair bit of strife. If I just lean my body weight in this direction, it's putting a ton of stress into the musculature on the inside of his legs here. 9 times out of 10, what you'll be able to do by splitting the legs open like this is get him to eject his knee shield. Exactly. Then you fall past the frames are no longer useful, and you're around them, or inside them in this specific instance. So what I want you guys to add now is play off between the difference of going outside like this and getting him to open up. Once he opens up, it's just a very tiny little pummel. Usually they do a good job at pointing their knee towards your top shoulder so that you don't get all the way over the top of it. It can happen, so I would look for it as well. But inside the line of his knee, just here, I can start to widen this and open it where he's going to be very motivated to let me through. And that way we've started to put a little bit more layers on the problem, not just going into this bit, but either going here or going here and using my hip to start to do that. You could put a ton of weight into their leg. Like, you can't really do a lot against this. Even with my hand here, if Spiel just tries to bring his legs in tight, I don't have to do a lot to stop him from doing that. Now imagine that it's my lower body and my hips where I've got a lot more strength and a lot more weight to utilize. Same thing here on the outside. Like, I might have to double up with the outside one on this, but this is putting a lot of strain into him, and I'm not really doing anything here. I can sit here and have a conversation and talk to you guys. Spewy won't be able to do the same thing over a long period of time. And if you consider most matches are 5 to 8 to 10 minutes, depending on where you're competing, that's a lot of time to have the side of your glute under tension, isn't it? Yeah, you need to shave your beard. Yeah, anyway, so we're looking at using the outside of our shoulder here, or the outside of our hip and our rib line, and then as soon as he doesn't like that, we open up. Now we're taking the inside of our shoulder, the inside of our rib line, and our hip towards the inside of his legs, so I can pop through the inside of this frame. One key detail that Gordon mentioned in his little YouTube breakdown is trying to get your hip towards their tailbone. So if you can rest your hip just at where their tailbone is, you know you're in a pretty good position to maintain your base here. You're not going to get off balance too heavily. And now I can start to simply pop my armpit over the top of his knee, and we're in a good position to start the pass. Let's give that a go. How do we deal with the upper body? Now, if he's an absolute complete spud cake, he's gonna, yeah, exactly. Stu already knows. How did you know? It's because you've done this before.
I have done this before.
Yeah, everybody's done it before. They take double shoulder posts, symmetrical. And now the reason why these are so easy to defeat is because all you do is snake your hands to the inside and come down. And now I get double underhooks, which is really bad for him and really good for me. So please, if you're framing on bottom, don't do that. Probably the most common frame you're going to experience, yeah, exactly, is a cross shoulder post or a cross lat post where he's got his fingertips underneath my lap. If he has his fingertips over the top of my shoulder, we've got a pretty neat little frame deleter, I guess. It's called a Rao drag, popularized by Jason Rao, popularized by Jason Rao. I was talking to Jason this morning. He's a lovely guy. Do you know he's younger than Luke?
Yeah.
I thought they were the same age.
He's like quite a bit younger.
He wasn't happy with that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so Jason Rao has popularized this. So essentially what you're doing is you're leaning into the frame and going into it and breaking our rule, but only so you can unbreak the rule and take the weight off, extend his frame off his body, and then you're going to clap essentially at the shoulder and at the wrist at the same time, so that you can X your hands into this position and then start to bring your chest down on top of where that frame was. And then I want you to put your chin over your hands. So now when Spewy tries to bring his arm back inside, I've got a physical wedge around the entirety of his elbow, and he's not going to be able to bring that back in. And then obviously I can start to claim cross faces if he's unattended. If he is, I'm not going in to this frame. I'm going to choose whether I go inside or rather around and then start to come in there. I'm going to start to go underneath and then towards the inside. I've got a couple of different options, but we're never going into, we're always thinking of ways that we can start to pop the elbow and go around it. You guys don't even need to necessarily know the names of the technique or anything like this. It's really simple. just don't go inwards. If you strain against this, yes, you may achieve a crossface, but it will be quite useless because he's got his hand in there anyway. So whenever you're experiencing resistance, think about this. Don't go in, go under, go over, go in, go around. Don't go against, always go the other way. So what we're going to look at first, row drag, when he's got his hand, when he's got his hand across our top shoulder. Usually what he wants to do is point this elbow at this shoulder and this wrist at this shoulder. So you have a cross frame. And this is really useful. It's good for him. It frees up his secondary hand, but we're going to take advantage of it. So we're going to pressure in momentarily to get him to extend, clap the wrist and at the tricep, and then take your chin back over that hand of yours so that when he tries to extract his arm, it's extremely difficult. Then when you go searching for the crossface, if he goes inside bicep tie like he should, underneath, you can start to swim in for near side underhooks. You can start to pop the elbow and then go inside, leading with your thumb to get towards crossfaces. There's a couple of different options there. Play around with whatever feels good for you. And then we can start to move into our passing. We'll deal with some other frames after that. Let's give that a go. If we can't go around the frame by taking it out and around this direction, because he's done a good job, we can go over the top. So I'm going to use my shoulder to collapse his elbow towards his chest. I can go around the outside, taking his arm across his body, taking him further than he would like to go. Or I can start to bat over the top and then use my chest to cover that space. If he's really bad, I could just snake my chest underneath here and take him high. The likelihood that that one happens against anybody good is quite low because they understand how important it is not to give up this space here, but it can happen, so it's worth trying. So really, the only direction I don't want to go in is just directly into him right now. So I'll play a game. If I can get my collarbone underneath here, I can start to go towards his shoulder. Maybe his elbow's getting dragged a little bit further across his center line than he'd like to. I just take him with it, no problem. When he goes to open up here, I can start to get underneath, and now I get into my underhook. If I want to go in over the top, I can. If I want to go underneath, I can. If I want to go over the top this way, if he's doing a good job at keeping his elbow pointed directly towards the ceiling, I may have to come off my hand, use my arm, bat that down, and then put my chest in the way. But you can see that there's a ton of different options here that'll give you a lot of good success just by thinking about it around this elbow joint, not directly into it. You can also start to pummel inside bicep ties and go towards this direction. When I do this, I want to drag my elbow down towards the floor, and I want to, again, put my chin over my hand. That way, when he tries to use this arm or he tries to re-pummel this back through, there's a bit of a circle going on here that's going to prevent him from doing that. And I can start to take my crossface. I can link my hands together, get his hand out of the way, pummel up into my underhooks and my crossfaces, and now I'm in a really good position for passing. The bottom side frames are essentially the exact same thing. If he's hip posting, I can start to come underneath. I wouldn't go over the top of this unless I just wanted to go cross faces. He's usually only going to be able to stop one thing at once on the bottom side of the body. He can either stop underhooks by gluing his elbow in nice and tight, of which I'll take a cross face, or he can stop cross faces. Yep, good boy. Where he takes his elbow off his body and I can start to go underneath the arm towards near side underhooks. Again, we're never going directly into this. I'm not trying to just put my body weight in. I'm going inside, around, through, under, over the top, and just bypassing that altogether. And at the upper body, on the top side frame, I should say, I can go inside bicep ties like this. I can bat his arm across. I can start to come underneath and take everything high, or I can go over the top and basically take that frame out. Frames are very good when you're going against them directly like this. They're very bad when you do anything else to them. This is really funny. But that's kind of the idea that we're working with at the moment. So have a go at the upper body frames now when they're underneath your cross lat so that you can't row drag. And then we'll mix everything together just before we wrestle. You can essentially use this from every single position. So if we're in a headquarters passing position, for obvious reasons, I'm not going to be putting weight directly into this for long periods of time. Maybe I start to go forwards to get a reaction. But most of the time, I'm picking, do I want to be on this side? Do I want to be on this side? Most of your problems in this guard will come from directly going into the knee. Most of your solutions will come from just ever so slightly getting on the outside, getting on the inside and starting to pummel over. It's not always going to be that easy, but this is the theory that we're working with. Same thing if we're thinking about a Toriando style of pass, if I just go directly into this, it's not going to be very useful. But if I start to take that away from the body, if I start to take his hips away so I get on the outside, if I start to split his legs by going on the inside, I've got more access to more things. If we're in a side control situation, I've come around, I've knee cut him, I get into a passing situation, he does a great job with his frames, and I just decide to go directly into these, the space is going to be free to get him to get his knees in the way. But if I don't go directly into them, I start to go over the top of them, I take away that space for his knee so that he can't come to the inside. Same thing in a north-south situation. If he's double thumb posting or hip posting, if I go directly into this, it's very strong. It actually feels quite good. It goes very strong, and then he can bring his knees back on the inside by the time I get down towards his chest. However, if I go over the top of his frames, I can start to easily get down chest to chest. Now when he tries to bring his legs involved, it's going to be extremely difficult. I can get on the inside of them, and then I can progress to my passing. So we're not going to drill that specifically, it's just to give you guys an example of what we're sort of looking at and why it's effective, and just keep that top of mind. So when you're going against lower body frames or upper body frames, it's essentially the same method, inside, around, up, over, through, but never against. Let's give that a go. No, let's get a drink and then we'll wrestle.